Hi guys, I'm Artist Martin Blum and welcome to my channel. Yeah, talking a lot with my hands even more than normal. Asperger's. It's fun. I've been away for a while. I've managed to catch the lovely virus that's been going around the world for the second time going. So it's taken a little bit of, thanks for that. Trying a little bit of time to recover. There's been some stuff going on my Instagram and I've actually had a few shorts that I put up here for you guys. So anyone that's been watching them, thanks a lot for the support. It's been very much appreciated. But for now, if you do like this video, please do give me a like. It does actually really help the channel grow. Subscribe and do everything else. I mean, that bell thingy, that's the other thing we need to be doing. And yeah, so for today, well, in this house we've been hearing a lot of the Encanto songs singing around as we have a 7-year-old.
And it's not a 7-year-old singing it, it's you.
Yeah, they're in my head. I have been singing them, as my husband says. But we do have a 7-year-old and it was the movie we watched on Christmas Eve as a family. So I thought we'd do a bit of an Encanto art piece, since it seems to be going off everywhere right now. And I thought I'd play with some perspex, or it's kind of perspex, kind of glass-like. It's aluminium, my husband said, on the back, but it looks like glass to paint on. It's got a white backing, you'll see it when I start painting on it. And I thought I'd have a bit of fun, see what it's going to be like to paint on. It's going to be one of my art on the different cell surfaces videos. And we're going to create an Encanto piece. So let's go to the flip side and see what we can make today. Okay guys, so you can see this is the surface I'm working on. It's a really nice shiny surface. I'm going to be working with acrylic paints today. So I will be laying down some line work first with a general fine liner. And for any of you that's working on anything like this that aren't so certain on your drawing skills or anything like that, I would say practice on other mediums before something like this, simply because these are a lot more expensive to buy, and allowing yourself to get practice in just gets you that little bit further. I trusted myself to go onto this afterwards. On the other hand, if you want to play around on this, they have one really good thing when it comes to acrylics that was really useful to me within it. You can wipe the acrylics off until the point in which you varnish or resin them, which you'll see I use writing Encanto down the side of it, and there is going to be a spelling error for nearly half of this video, and I was able to rectify it and fix the entire piece of artwork still. So all that being said about this being something that, yeah, it is going to be a lot. It's if you want to make a really posh piece of artwork as a professional, yes, you do want to hold off. However, this is something you can actually play around with and come back to and restart your work and wipe it off and go again. If you're going to do that though, I would advise maybe using the finer whiteboard pens than this, because this did take a lot of scrubbing off with these ones. So I'm going with drawing Mirabel, who is the lead character technically, because I don't think there's, even though she's pegged as the lead, there's so many characters with so many different flavours and they add so many different things to this movie. I'm going with the one that doesn't technically have magic, although, as I said, that's arguable again. She's the storyteller and the glue that holds the family together. So I'll let you watch me put the line work down and we'll go from there. So colour matching and everything, when it comes to the exact picture that I'm using for this, I'm not going for exact colour matches. I'm going for painting her herself in a more impressionist style, which means I'm not going to be going for the exact way her skirt was painted or the exact way her hair or anything else was done. I'm going to be going more loose with the colours and more loose with the design, and I find that a very fun way to draw and a very fun way to actually paint. It can lead to some very interesting artwork, and it takes, I find it interesting and fun. It takes being able to know which colours to put on and which colours to leave, and trusting yourself. But yeah, have a bit of fun with it if you decide to give it a go. Starting off though with this obviously, some of these colours, and these were my better quality acrylics, they did need a couple of coats just because of the surface they were working on. They were working on obviously a very shiny surface. That's okay. I'm going to let the couple of layers go on, and then we'll come on to adding some of those finer details. Right, so one of the things that I do want to highlight is that I've used the deeper greens here to obviously do the shadows. The colour palette that's in use here is very, very much it's a very wide palette, and I'm going to be doing a video soon discussing different colour palettes and how to work within a set palette, and what that actually means. But right now, I'm sticking within the same colour palette that the movie used, which is basically the colour scheme the movie used. So we've got turquoises, purples, we've got a bit of yellows coming in, and some blues. So 4 different core colours, which means basically if you look at colour wheel, we've got a rectangle going across, and as I said, I will be discussing that later on. I have got one coming up in mind, but for now, yeah, we're sticking with the same scheme as the movie did, which in all fairness, Encanto, they had a wonderful palette throughout the entire movie. It was so pleasing to the eye. But as you can see, I've chosen to add some iridescence to this. And when I said I was going for looking at adding marks, I've gone for adding the flow in the same way. So her skirt very much had colours and flowers down that side. So even though I'm not doing the entire flower, I'm giving the impression that the flower is there, which is what Impressionism is all about. Even if you don't do the entire detail, you want to make it very clear that that shape is still that item. You can make it exceptionally loose or a lot tighter like that flower is. So some Impressionism like Monet is exceptionally, you can look at it and you can tell what his intentions were when putting the pieces down, whereas some is a lot looser, and you can look at works of sunsets or sea scenes that look to a lot of people like they're just blended pieces of work, where to people that actually do and paint Impressionism, to me they're absolutely stunning. So here, though, I'm going for a lot of the tighter styles, specifically with some of the pieces around her top. She has a butterfly on her shoulder, which I'm making a lot more prominent when I do paint it. And she's got very much traditional Colombian dress, which is where the movie is set. Now, I'm not going to be doing the design exactly as it is, but I want to make very clear that she is in their traditional, she's got the traditional style look. So I need to make the navy blue, when I do that, look just right. And I also need to make sure the shape is just right and we've got the proportions right. All that, it takes me means that I need to be looking at my reference picture all the time, as well as the one I'm painting. So as we go, you can see I keep adding the white, even though it looks like I'm not painting anything at this time. Adding the white layer on is just as important in pieces like this, because it's obviously still there, and my background is incredibly shiny, so I need that white paint on. So when it is reflecting, it's obvious that it is blocked out. I'm going to let you watch as all these go on now and the colours get added, and you can see what all that jumble and ramble has just been all about. So getting up to the face, obviously I'm going to be putting a base layer first on, which will be one of the deeper layers. You can see I've already done the arms, I've done the shadowing and the lighter colours already among them. I haven't added the shadows to the clothes yet, so they look a bit flat. They will get added. Her face, you can't just draw a face in one colour. You need to make sure that you show that a face is a round object. Even when doing characters like this, you can see from how I've drawn this, I'm trying to make her look more lifelike, more alive, and I'm taking away using the Disney character as a reference, but I'm adding a lot of the tools I use with more realistic painting to achieve that, which means I'm looking at the light and the shadows that I've spoken to you before. The sun would be at the top right corner of this painting, which is where you can see the light on the arms is hitting. It'll be the same when I'm looking at her face. So all that is always taken into account. So the neck is already coming up lighter there as it hits the top of her face. All that gets taken into account as every little detail gets added. Knowing that point of reference, knowing where your light's coming in from whenever you're painting anything like this is super important. I'm going to let you watch the face get filled in, and then we'll talk a bit about how I've done the hair and how I fixed the mistake in Encanto, because I do go to the point of painting Encanto before we change it to Encanto.
And there's places that I got to be going before the morning birds chirp and sing, before the very first telephone ring. I stop and give thanks for the gift of my life, the air that I breathe and the gift of my sight. The sweet little queen in a dream right beside me. She's my whole world and the life inside me. Oh, 'cause we plant and reap and plow and sow. What we think is what we grow.
Right, so as you can see, she's got curly hair, and that was actually a bit tricky with this specific style of material I was working on, because it all slides, and I would normally, if I was using my markers, put the darker tones on in the back and then add the lighter colours. Here I actually went to my mid-tone first, and I made sure I was painting in the directions of which I wanted the curls to actually start to dry, and that actually allowed the shape of the hair to actually start forming within the paint movement. It was exceptionally important when you're painting things like hair that you paint in the direction in which the hair is going to be flowing, because especially if you're on something like this that will literally have every single one of your paint strokes drying in such a way that they show the direction in which you painted them. For things like hair, that is so evidently important because they look dry and look like strands. So using the mid-tone first, it means you've got space that's set out that you can see clearly where you want the next colour to go lie in. So you actually don't want to go for a darker brown for your dark colours. I went for a really dark navy, and that blocked out within some of the patches where you're seeing really light colours there by just doing like little small semicircles within them. That actually allows you to black out the navy bits and actually make a really realistic curl and it would work really well on a canvas as well, but it works particularly well on this style of surface, especially while it's still wet. And wet on wet tends to be used within acrylic painting as much as it's used within oil, but it does work, and I do like it for specific things like this. Now, I said I like it, and I apparently didn't use it here, so obviously it wasn't working for me. You'll also notice one thing I have done within this is I'm using multiple brushes. That's another thing to make sure you are doing. Don't limit yourself to one brush whenever you're making a piece of artwork. Make sure you're aware that you will have different brushes on hand. This piece of artwork, I think I used about 5 or 6 different brushes, and that was highly important. Each brush had a different use at that point in time, and they all were needed. But as I was saying about the hair, if I don't go back to it at this point, because I'm not going to keep you listening to me, I used the dark navy there, and then I went on after that had dried, and that was a specific after it was dried, and got a gold and layered that on to catch the light right over the top. And those 3 colours, and it was just those 3 colours alone used, made the hair look like it was natural and alive, and that kind of little touch is what really adds something to your character. You'll also see here that the clothing has had added on the shadowing, and that was done by literally watering down the navy blue, so its opacity, which is how thin it is, was a lot lighter, and it's added the shadows to its clothing, which you need to remember do add shadows because they bend on you. So the skirt and the top add shadows, and doing it in blue was the right colour here, but quite often people will use a grey. It's very rare that if you look around your natural environment that grey would be the colour that you actually see. So have a look around yourself when you're drawing shadows. Shadows often fall in the colour of the clothing they're falling on, and go from there. I'm going to let you go to where I made the mistake at the end so I can show you how I actually fixed it. Right, did that all look simple, that scrubbing? Because it isn't. It was a mixture of soap and water, and taking the time to methodically rub it off. I used artist soap because it's particularly good on paint. If you do have that, use the same soap that you would use to keep your brushes in good order and get the paint off your hands, and be really careful to stay away from your painting. I did find it was really hard, as I said before, to get the pen off. So if you're working on something like this that you want to be able to reuse the board again, make sure you're using a water-soluble marker. But one trick I'm going to show you after, which I'm going to try and get my husband to forward it a little further, is how to actually get this lettering right, because I never showed you that in the first place. So let's go to where the lettering starts, and we'll go from there. Right, so the first thing I did is work out how many letters I had, which I did do the first time round, but because my brain can sometimes work a little bit too fast for the rest of me, I sometimes miss letters out. I can also miss words out. It's just part of having Asperger's. But work out how many letters you have and mark out down the side. It stops you getting to the end of a piece of work and realising you've run out of space and having to squeeze those letters in. It gets that kind of thing is really irritating. Do the same if you're going to use words to put down there, mark out where the words are going to go and go from there. Then if you're going doing something as iconic as something like this, look at the lettering they actually use for the movie, because people will recognise it and it's going to be very specific, especially if it's for a movie like a Disney film. You can always rub out straight away the dots along the side, but if it's going to be an iconic, something like this is important. The stylisation of the letters, they can be awkward. So if you're going to struggle replicating letters, practice before. Get a sheet of paper, give them a practice, and go from there. Now, writing on this is actually quite tricky. So they actually look a lot better once they have paint on them than they did when they were writing. Take that kind of thing into account. If you know they're going to improve with paint on them, give yourself a break if they don't look perfect with pen on. That's not actually your end goal. And go from there. Then, once you've got all that together and you know you're actually on the right path, you can actually sit there and go together and put the painting on. Now from this, once I looked at Disney's paintwork, they actually have a really complicated way of putting all the paint together, or all their design together. It had patterns across it and fancy designs and stuff that would have just not worked for the stylisation of my art. But they had two distinct things, and that was the green and the blue. So I stuck to using the colours. And sometimes the best thing you can do is look for the two colours. And look here, I nearly wrote Encanto again. That's how my brain works. I was that stuck on it, I actually had to rub it out a second time. But, yeah. I did. My husband's looking at me like I'm crazy. He knows I don't do this kind of thing. I don't know why he's looking at me like I'm crazy. It's not like it's shocking. But look for those distinctive things that will stand out that you can replicate easily. For this one, it was the two colours, the green at the top and the blue at the bottom, and go with that. That way, when you do complete your work, it will look distinctive. If you actually sometimes try to overdo it with the patterns, it can actually be too much. So it actually won't look as good as it would with the simplified form. So I'm going to just let you get to the end, and I'm going to say goodbye here, because I think that's enough for today, and let you watch the end of this video. Thank you for being here with me today. As I said, I'm sorry for such a long break, but I really hope you've enjoyed this video back. I have got some really interesting ones coming up. I've filmed 3 in the last 3 days, and there's some really fun ones. We've got another Disney one, but and I have a tutorial in how to draw using a certain style, and I can't remember what it's called now, but how to draw using a reference picture, using a grid. That's what I'm doing. That's what's coming soon. So I have them coming soon for you guys. So I'll be back on my normal Thursday and Sunday, hopefully, as long as my health does allow it. So stay safe and well, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye.